Welcome everybody. You know my name, Jaguar the Band Dog, Jalik the Student. I have a very special guest, Corey Vitatoe.
Yep, Vitatoe.
Vitatoe, you speak Italian?
I do, but that's not because of the name.
Okay. I'm like this guy. Where are you from? Sicily or something? So yeah, I'm so happy. Everybody know I love doing interviews. He's a breeder based in Texas. Tosa Inu, and I was just talking to him beforehand. You're not going to see Tosa Inus like that, not in the U.S. So this guy right here is basically exclusive. This is like getting the first pair of Jordans that Jordan had in 1984. You can't get Tosas like that. So we're gonna talk about some Tosas, and I'm just gonna learn. So welcome, Corey. So before we get started, how did you get into dogs? Because we all know that in certain places, being into dogs is not really a thing. It's like you got to be into sports. So how did you actually even get into dogs?
So I was always an animal lover, even as a earliest I can remember. And my dad, probably more so than anybody, kind of nurtured that, I think. We grew up. So to be clear, I grew up in South Park, Houston. So when I say animal lover, I mean on TV and in books and stuff. We didn't really like our animals out there. You run across a rat or a water moccasin or something. But honestly, even then, it was still fascinating to me. Dogs were always the animals that I could reach and the animals that I could touch and have. So ever since we first got them, I was into dogs. I would say most of my early childhood, you could ask me, what's this breed or what's that breed, and I couldn't tell you. I didn't really know breeds aside from, the really famous and popular ones like a Rottweiler. I could tell you what that was, and stuff like that. But that being said, kind of just when I got to high school, I really wanted to do a purebred dog, and I started learning more about breeds and all that other kind of stuff. I had already started learning about training because one of our mixes, one of our dogs, I would get the boys, and everybody always thought that the boys couldn't be trained. So that's how I started dog training. I was like, well, stop talking bad about my dog. I'm going to show you what he can do. And, just kind of the more I learned, the more I wanted to learn. And it just kind of took off, really, really took off. To this day, don't have animals I don't like. I just got stung on the back of the neck the other day by hornets. I didn't like those particular hornets, but I'm okay with the species. Wow. So, yeah. Wow. Yep.
So you was now. How did you actually learn it? Like you had to be deep into the game to even learn about it, because, like you said, we only in certain parts of the city you only know about pits, Rottweilers, German Shepherds, and kind of Dobermans, and maybe Labs. Yep. So how did you even get to that point of even know about Tosa Inus?
So there was this website, I think they're actually still around, a website called dogbreedinfo.com. And they just compiled a ton of dogs. And I remember every time we would go to the bookstore, library, didn't matter where we went, I wanted to find animal information. So I would go look in the animal section. I would love to look at the dogs and the dog books and stuff. And most of those books only had information for AKC registered breeds. The AKC currently does not register that many breeds. Like it seems like a lot, but versus what's out there, it's not even a 10th. And that's like today. If we go back to when I was looking around in the late 90s, they had much less. There's been quite a few breeds added even since that time. And it's just one of those things that when I came across this website that had all these different breeds that I'd never heard of or anything, I just went 100% geek mode and started learning about all of them. I knew about presas and dogos and cane corsos and all that other kind of stuff before most people even knew they existed. And I had like little dossiers written up on them. I was learning about all of them and trying to compare which ones were out there and what was available. I came across the Tosa through that site, and it was one of those things again where going into it, I had a very clear idea of exactly what I was looking for. I wanted an athletic dog. So dogs like Dobermans were right up my alley, but they were a little bit small for me for what I wanted. And also I wanted a dog that, like the neighbors behind us, they fought pits. And again, I didn't want to come outside one day and find my dogs dead in the backyard. So I wanted something that could handle itself. And looking at like a lot of the dogs that were starting to come up, like American Bulldogs, starting to see more of them and stuff like that, I thought they were neat, but I still needed a dog that was athletic. So when I came across the Tosa, I was just going down the list. Low maintenance, because I'm not looking to be brushing hair every day, all day. Athletic, healthy, big enough for me to play with, because I want to wrestle with my dog. I like playing with my dogs. I like being able to run with my dogs. I'm going to go run for miles. I want a dog that can keep up with that. And this is Houston, Texas. If you can make it here, you can make it anywhere as far as heat is concerned, so, but they need to be able to put up with that. And, just going down the list, and the Tosa just check. And I kind of expected that there would be a dog, that was kind of really close to what I wanted, but has this drawback or that drawback, and I wouldn't like this, wouldn't like that. But overall, it would be what I wanted. With the Tosa, I had zero drawbacks. There was nothing that was like, oh yeah, but there's that one thing, until it came to the price and actually getting one. It's like a 2-year waiting list minimum to get one out of Japan. And then on top of that, you had to make relationships with the dogmen there. You had to be able to purchase one and get it shipped from Japan to the US, which just high school student, it's not going to happen. So I had actually given up on it until, funny, we should talk about how you're not going to just come across one. Actually came across one. It was a puppy. And the people that got it, they decided they didn't want it. By that time, the show scene had already started selecting certain Tosas for kind of show. And a lot of people, when they looked at a Tosa, they thought it was a big red kind of fat dog that looked good standing there. So this dog, being a Japanese import, had slightly longer hair than what you'd expect. She wasn't long haired or anything like that, but she had slightly longer hair than what you'd expect. And she wasn't a big, heavy dog. So they didn't want anything to do with her. And I ended up getting my hands on her. And I was super excited about that because I wanted something that could do the work. I don't care how you look if you can't do anything with that. So getting my hands on her was just perfect. And again, it's one thing to look at a dog on paper and think that's the dog for me. And then you get it in person and it's like, again, the reality is, well, this, that, or the other thing. But again, with the Tosa, no drawbacks. What they were on paper is what they were in reality. And kept that breed, never looked back. To this day, I want to expand and, have a couple other breeds that we work with as well. But there will never be a replacement for the Tosa. There will always be a Tosa program here as long as I'm working with dogs, So yeah, it's definitely a breed I fell in love with, and no regrets, no looking back. Everything it's been work. I'm not going to say it's been easy, but everything has been worth it in ways I can't describe.
Now, you said she was your first Tosa. What did she like? what do you look back and be like, man, she taught me this in ways? How does she shape you as the person that you are and dog man that you are? How does she shape you? In what ways? Being your first, because each dog is different. Not every dog is gonna be the same.
Yeah, I'd say she was the first dog. So I got her kind of mid high school, late high school, and she was the first dog that I was raising myself intentionally. Like prior to that, all our dogs were our family dogs, and each of us kids were kind of like, well, this one's mine, no, that one's mine, and so on and so forth. But none of them were really ours or our responsibility solely or anything like that. Whereas this was the first dog that was intentionally mine. And therefore, I was going to be practicing everything I had learned about and read about dog training, dog raising, all that stuff. And I think that with working with her, there's something about the Tosa that they have, like when people look at them, they tend to look at them as a Western breed, and they tend to think of them as a Western breed. But one of the things that I'm trying to help people to understand is that the Tosa is intellectually and temperamentally as primitive as your Akita, as primitive as your Shiba, as primitive as any of those dogs. And when it comes to working with them, it's, I don't know how to say, like it's fundamental. It's one of those things that's like working with a wolf almost, in my experience, and working with some of the wild dogs that I've worked with. Yeah, it's not to say they're not domesticated, they are, but their instinct is primal, in that sense. So getting to learn on those dogs and getting to train on those dogs and become the trainer that I am by working with those dogs, I learned fundamentals. I learned without the fluff, without, the show, without this, that, or the other thing. And a lot of the stuff I learned was, it was in black and white, if that makes any sense. So for instance, I can read dogs' body languages really well because of Tosas. They don't use growling a whole lot, not unless it's like, it's already after the fact. So you're not going to really see a whole lot of growling. You're not going to see a whole lot of barking or anything like that. And you'll learn really quick what standing up a certain way means and stuff like that. And a lot of people might mistake that and say that's just a Tosa thing. But if you hang out with them for a bit and then you go hang out with a Labrador, and you'll see, oh, wait, no, the Labrador does that too. I just never noticed it because I'm so used to not paying attention until I hear the growl, So yeah, when working with her, there was a lot that I learned from a fundamental level and in black and white that translated to every dog I've worked with ever since, any breed. And even, even dingoes, coyotes, wolves, I've worked with each of those.
Wow. Okay.
And I can say, like, so I haven't bred them or owned them, but I've worked with them professionally, and they're hybrids. And I can say that the stuff that I learned working with Tosas directly translates every breed I've worked with. So yeah.
So besides a breeder, you also are a dog trainer as well?
Yes.
Okay.
Dog training and behavior therapy so for friends and family, and non-professionally, I was doing that probably since around the year 2000-ish.
Oh, okay.
I was a kid at the time, but somebody's dog isn't doing what they wanted to do, and I took the information that I learned training my own hard-headed dogs and started working and helping other people's dogs. I also was, reading every bit of material I could from different trainers, and educating myself and stuff, and then going out and practicing what I read and learned in the real world. So yeah, I've been doing a whole lot of that since then. And I think it's been a little slower lately because working with the dogs we have here has been a lot of the focus. And also, I don't know if you heard the baby in the background, but yeah, he's out there.
Okay.
Um,
Congrats. Okay.
but yeah, so yeah, definitely doing a lot of that.
For those like myself, like what's the general overall temperament personality of a Tosa Inu? Are they dog aggressive? Are they stubborn? Are they guardian? Are they easy to train? Or what's their personality generally like? Because we know not all of them going to be like that, but what's their general personality type of a Tosa Inu?
Gotcha. Okay, so what I would say is this: there's what you get, and then what they're intended to be. What you get is going to be due to a lot of factors. There's each dog is an individual, and then also, like again, speaking as a trainer, I cannot overstate how important it is to understand even the things you don't realize you're doing in the way you bring up a dog are going to affect that dog.
Mm-hmm.
A good example of that is, if you have a game dog man and you have a Labrador breeder and they do a puppy swap, and you come back and get those dogs at 6 months of age, you're going to find that Labrador acts more like a pit than a lab, and that pit acts more like a lab than a pit. And again, a lot of that is stuff they don't realize. The Labrador people are going to say, hey, you barked at your sibling, or you were a little too rough on your sibling. We're not going to tolerate that. And they're going to start stopping that, at that age. Whereas a game dog man might say, good, keep it up,
Yeah.
And
Right.
again, when it comes to this breed, they're no exception. But all that disclaimer out there. First off, the Tosa is not supposed to be just dog aggressive. They're supposed to be competitive. They're supposed to be a lot of different things. They're supposed to be dominant. They're supposed to be a lot of different things. But they are a dog you should be able to take into a crowd. You should be able to walk through a bunch of people. You should be able to walk past house pets. I've taken my dogs to a couple of dog shows now, a couple of shelters, a couple of shops and pet stores and things like that. Have absolutely no problem, and I should have no problem with them around other dogs. Even when other dogs want to fight, a Tosa should not be given to just taking off and fighting. A Tosa should be a dog that fights with their head first. So the first thing they should be doing is evaluating what kind of mindset is this dog in? Is it nervous, anxious, fearful, tense? Is it reactive, insecure? Any of these states of mind are most of the reasons dogs fight here in the U.S. A Tosa is going to immediately recognize that as not a legitimate challenge. And they should allow that dog to kind of bounce off their side, give them a glance like, okay, when you're done, we're going to keep going, and move on about their way. On the other hand, should they encounter a legitimate threat, a legitimate challenger, a dog that they're not going to just see every dog as threat, but if they see a dog that's calm, cool, collected, which is not common here in the U.S., but if they see that and they see that dog is, super confident about itself, then the Tosa is going to be like, okay, and they might go their whole life without you ever seeing that. But when it happens, you'll know. It's not something that you'll think, I wonder if he, thinks that about. No, you'll know. They'll see that dog from a mile away and they'll pick that dog out of a crowd.
That's interesting because that makes it, to be honest with you, that's kind of what you want, because that means that dog is easier to manage.
Yes.
You don't want your dog just going off and just, taking another dog's life. It's just, it's there. You also don't want no dog that's just going to allow themselves to be bullied. So that's a great combination.
Very, very good balance. Yes, that's it exactly. And when it comes to kind of another aspect of it, again, these are very intellectually aware dogs. The only dogs that you don't have to teach, you shouldn't have to teach to have an off switch. Again, it's not to say that you don't have individuals that are like that one way or another, but again, every male I've ever owned, I've had an instance where they got next to another male Tosa, something like that happened or what may have you. And again, I've been able to tell them stop. And that's all it takes. Normal speaking voice. That's it.
That's amazing.
Half the time, I don't even have to say anything. I've had dogs that got out of the fence back when I was in high school. And again, these aren't dogs that are roaming the neighborhood and terrorizing everybody or anything like that. The second dog I ever got, a dog named Mufasa, he would get out of the fence and he would just go sit on the front porch. And if you're walking by, if you're minding your own business, kids getting out of school and stuff, running and playing, you wouldn't know he was there. Wow. 130, 140 pound dog, jet black, golden eyes, piercing through your soul. You wouldn't know he was there.
Wow.
And he wouldn't care to tell you. He's not barking. He's not doing anything. You could walk by with your dog. Cats could walk by across the street. Squirrels, didn't matter. But if somebody did something that was unusual, like for instance, you're walking by and you stop and turn towards the house, or you take too long and linger, that's when you get his attention. That's when his head raises up, and that's when you realize, oh, But the same thing, I'd have the neighborhood kids would know my dogs because I didn't want them getting into trouble with that anyway. And I remember one time he got out and I had come home from work, and I was working at the grocery store. At the restaurant, and I came home from work and I fell asleep, and he had got out while I was asleep, and everybody that was out there was trying to catch him and pull him back into the yard or what may have you. But the problem was that it wasn't that he was running away or anything like that. It was that nobody could really get close to him. Like he wasn't going to go bother you, but you weren't going to come get his collar. Right. Like he doesn't know you. He's not submitting to you. He's not like he had a look that was like the people's eyebrow. That dog would raise an eyebrow and look at you, and you'd stop and be like, okay, you know what?
Is that the one that was jumping over the gates?
Yeah, that was him.
Oh, okay, that's him. Okay.
And I remember
acting easy. I was like, wow.
Yep. He was like, no problems at all. That dog clears 6 foot fence without touching it.
Yeah.
And I remember my dad coming in and let me know he got out and that I needed to go out there and get him. I went outside. I didn't know all this stuff was going on. And I went outside and, I saw him. He saw me. And he was already starting to walk towards me. So I didn't even say anything. I just took him over to the fence and just walked over to the fence. I didn't have to touch him or anything. Walked over to the gate and he walked in, went on about his business. I closed the gate and that was it. And I remember a couple of the neighbors came up and they were like, man, that's insane. Like nobody could go anywhere near that dog. Nobody could touch him. He wouldn't listen to anybody or anything. And when they said they were going to get you, I figured, you'd have to get a leash and catch him and all that stuff. No, as soon as you walked outside, he just calmed down. His head lowered down to normal. His ears went down and he just started walking behind you. And you didn't even have to say anything, And to me, again, like these are the first dogs that I'm raising myself. So to me, like we've had dogs before and I've trained dogs before, but still, this is really, I'm used to this, right? So I'm not even thinking about it like that. I'm like what else was he going to do? But it's just one of those things that the more I got out as a trainer and the more I began training professionally and stuff like that, the more I got to see, no, that's not normal. That's not something that you should expect from just any dog. I've worked with police dogs. I've worked with all different kinds of dogs. You shouldn't expect them to not need that off switch spoken, Whereas again, with Tosas, that's just very unique to the dog. They have an all the way on, they have an all the way off. And just because you're looking at one, don't think that there's not the other,
Do you think that was influenced by, because I'm big into epigenetics, you think that was influenced by the Japanese culture themselves? Because, each place each group of people has their certain personality types. Do you think that's how it was, or?
Absolutely.
Okay.
I think that the more that we look into and study and learn about this breed, the more we realize that I think that I find less and less reason for this breed to not be a national monument in Japan. Not only is it itself a breed that really could have been created nowhere else on the planet, but due to the tradition and the unaltered way of this dog going back in concept as far back as you want to go, at least 1100 AD.
Wow.
You can go to a museum and you can see a samurai sword. You can see somebody's warrior armor that they might have left behind, but it's not the same as meeting the person. And if we went to a museum and saw a Tosa statue, well, that'd be like running across a samurai sword. It's really neat and really awesome and cool to see that thing that used to be. But the Tosa itself is still here, and it is the way of life that was passed down through tradition, both orally and practically, following this culture. And they're like, you can look at the different eras and the things that were going on. You can see how, because the samurai came from this family instead of that family in history that was cut short, and this family happened to be dog lovers. So if you look at like the Hojo era, that was really the start of the samurai shogun. If you look at that clan were dog people. And if it weren't for them, if it wasn't for the way that they set up the stage, rather, for or created a stability and an environment in which the Tosa could flourish, you probably wouldn't have this breed to this day.
Makes
So
sense.
there's that. There's the Bushido itself is the warrior way. You don't have people who can go out and still live that to this day, but you do have a dog that can. You have sumo, a sport where only guys can do it. Only people of a certain rank can wear the mawashi and so on, so the silk robe and stuff like that, and have the big rope. If a female human touches the ring of a sumo wrestling match, then they have to destroy the ring and start back over as if an American flag touches the ground. Right? It's retired.
Wow.
So there's a lot of prestige and honor and ritual with that. And I'm not saying anything against women. I'm just saying that's their way.
Yeah.
And yet there is this dog that can do so, and rightfully so. And it's rooted in their religion. It's so much so when it comes to the question of, what is the Tosa? I think one of the biggest things we miss here in the West is looking at the Tosa as a Western breed, or looking at the Tosa through Western eyes and trying to understand it through a Western understanding. If we do that, then we take out so much from that dog. And of course, people are going to think, oh yeah, the Tosa is a dog that's 24 inches at the shoulder or higher, weighs this much, is this color, looks this way, more wrinkle, more, scissors bite, etc. And that's not what the dog is. That's never been what the dog is. The dog is here first and here first. And if you don't got that, you don't have a Tosa. It doesn't matter what else you got, So understanding what created those things in the dog, and understanding how they continue to cultivate those things and shape those things and preserve those things in the dog to this day. Again, I think that it is probably, I could make a case for why that dog is a national treasure in ways that I think rivals, if not supersedes, many of the other breeds that are there in Japan, actually.
So you told us about the temperament. Now, how is it? Is dog competition still legal in Japan? Because here you can't do it anymore. Is it still legal? And if so, is it Tosa versus Tosa, or is it Tosa versus other masters? Tosa versus Bully Kudos? How does that work?
So Tosas predominantly are matched in Japan and in Korea.
Okay.
As far as the way that those matches work, your rules are going to be decided by where you're at. Okay. And if you talk to any of those authentic dog men over there, they'll tell you literally what they say will translate to the rules make the dogs. Even in selecting in your own kennel, you're going to pick dogs for your league. So again, the rules make the dogs. I can't stress that enough as far as what they're going to say. In that regard, there's also a great respect for the ritual itself and for the tradition itself. So if a dog should come along that can meet those requirements, then it doesn't really matter what breed it is. In that sense, a good dog is a good dog as far as what's that's concerned. But it needs to be understood that it's not just a fight. It's not just putting a couple dogs in a box, seeing what happens. It's got more rules than I think many professional sports have. Wow. If during a match, okay, so we know, right, Tosas are required to fight quietly. And a lot of people, they hear that, they think that that's the only match rule. They also don't really understand why. Long ago, the Japanese dogmen realized that once the dog starts to make too much sound, it's because they're losing their will. If you talk to a lot of the dogmen here in America, a lot of the old school dogmen here in America, they'll say the same thing. Now, they don't necessarily have a rule for it, but they know it. Same thing is going to be true with those dogmen in Japan, but they want to make sure that if a dog is not showing the will to continue, they call it, and they call it early. If a dog is humping the air over another dog during a match or humping the other dog in any kind of way, then that dog is disqualified. And again, why would they do that? Well, when you understand dog psychology, you understand that that sort of excited dominant state is quite potentially lethal, not only to the other dog, but also to any people that get in there. You don't want excited dominant. That is a dog that can turn around and bite you. So, and that doesn't matter what the sport or what your activity is. If you're looking at some of these dogs that turn on their handlers, be it a police dog or whatever it is, you'll see that dog swap into an excited dominant state. And it's not necessarily that they hump anything or anything like that, but that excited dominant state can lead to a lot of trouble. And if you talk to these Asian dog men, they're not going to say, oh, excited dominant, fear reactive, et cetera, et cetera. They're not going to have these fancy terms that we try to use to describe things here in the West. But they know what they're talking about, and they know what they're looking at. And I'm talking 250 rules of what governs these matches. Wow. So when it comes to what dogs can compete, you can absolutely have any dog of any breed hop into the ring. But are they going to be able to meet those requirements?
Makes sense.
Are they going to be able to match that? And that's what it is. I think the better way to look at it is what kind of person can compete in the Olympics, say in the 100-meter dash. They don't have to be a certain height. They don't have to be a certain skin color or a certain, any of that. No. But they better be able to run a dash for starters. And They better know the rules. They better know the forms. They better have it down pat. And they better be able to do it against people that are doing it at this level. Right? So same way, if you bring in like a dogo and that dogo can follow the match rules and do well, that's only half of the battle. You also have to do it against the pros. If you can't do it at a level that matches a Tosa, and again, somebody might have a dogo that they want to try in the ring. A Tosa doesn't make it to 18 months of life unless it's capable and has impressed the dog man.
Oh wow!
You know,
So you
like
saying they call hard? You saying they call hard over there?
Very hard. The dog's not going to make it to 90 days of life if it's not demonstrating something already.
Wow.
So when they're making selections, they can there's some things they can see from birth. You know, again, this is a dog breed that 1100 AD and traditions have passed down. They know lines that go back 1,000 years. They know what the dog's going to do, how it's going to do it, how it's going to look, all that other kind of stuff. It goes way back. And even just now, we're just starting to tap into some of that knowledge. And when it comes to that selection process, like I said, culling very, very hard. They'd rather let a line die than produce a dog that doesn't do what they want it to do. And if you're talking about Japan, again, the ritual is taken a lot more serious there. So the rules are a lot more stringently followed. If you're talking about Korea, you're more likely to see other dogs match with Tosas. And you're also going to see the rules aren't as close to what's traditional in Japan. But still, again, you got to be able to do what a Tosa does, and you have to be able to do it as well as a Tosa, you know? And again, this is a dog that there are no pet Tosas. There are no people that have Tosas for protection work over there. There are no people that have Tosas for therapy work or any other job. There is one role for this dog. So if you see one and it's alive, like if it exists, it's because it's already proven itself every day of its life. You're not just going to come in that ring and do whatever you want. Like, that's not just any dog.
They strictly living their purpose out. So that makes the breed even more exclusive. That's like beyond exclusive right there.
Yes.
The culling itself makes it kind of exclusive because most people are not going to do that.
Yeah,
and no. They now have pets. Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, so when it comes to it, like even the JKC, the Japanese Kennel Club, they have the Tosa as a registered breed, and they want Tosas to show up at their shows. But I know in the entire history of that kennel club, I know of one person who has Tosas in Japan that'll take their dogs to that show. It's a lady whose husband matches dogs, and she'll take the dogs to the show every once in a while. But they're not bred as show dogs. And everybody else, every time you see a Tosa at a Japanese Kennel Club show, it's an import. It's somebody from somewhere else that brought their Tosa to show it at that show. You know? So again, one purpose, one function, one thing. So if that dog made it to 90 days, if they're still alive at 90 days, they're already showing a lot. If they're still alive at 18 months, they're showing a ton. And 18 months, they start getting tested, you know? And you're not going to have like a lot of, when you're talking about protection work or any sort of hog hunting, any sort of dog that does physical work, working against something, hunting dogs, whatever, working against something, their test roles are all about building confidence. So if you're talking about, like, even when you're talking about protection work and bite work and stuff like that, you're going to hear them talk about don't break the dog's temperament, build the confidence. They'll be petting them when they're working and stuff like that. And they want to build the dog up, right? Tosas don't get that. They don't get any of that. When they get to be the age that they're ready for a role, the kennel owner, they'll get the highest dog that they've got in their kennel or the highest dog that they got their hands on, a Yokozuna, a Meikin Yokozuna, which is essentially a champion of champion. They beat other champions, right? And matched and beat other champions several times, I think at least 3 times. And they'll take that fresh pup at 18 months and throw it in the ring with that dog.
Wow.
And it'd be the equivalent of me deciding I want to learn how to box, and I show up for my first day of training, it's not sparring, it's not drills, it's stepping into the ring with Mike Tyson, like right now.
Wow, they making some hard dogs. That's amazing. So now with them not having dog competitions here like that, how do you test your dogs out in a sense? Like how do you test their endurance, their drive, their working ability, and also who would be an ideal client of a Tosa Inu?
So I'd say those are $1 million questions. I think that anybody, not necessarily everybody, but anybody can have a Tosa. Anybody who's willing to do what it takes to raise a healthy and successful dog. I've known people that got them that had never had a dog above the size of a Labrador and did great. I've known people that have had Boerboels, Cane Corsi, etc., Dogos, whatever, Presas, even, and they took the dog for granted. They took the Tosa for granted, thinking that they already knew all there was to know, and it didn't work out so well, you know. But again, what I would say is the person who's ready here and here, doesn't matter. You can handle one, you know. That's that. The question was, what kind of person can handle them? What was the other question? I'm sorry. So that
how do you test out their endurance, their drive? Because I'm asking because I see your girl. What's her name? Let me see. Kushina. Yeah. How did you get her to run 10 miles? That's amazing.
Gotcha. Yeah. So So when it comes to what we can do, I think what we can do is kind of the operative phrase there. I'm not gonna, like, if anybody comes and talks to me about Tosas and stuff like that, I can tell you every bit of the history. I can tell you every bit of what's going on that I know that's going on in Japan and Korea. I can't say I know everything or know everybody, but I'll talk dogs all day. But what I'm not going to do is sit here and try to pretend like we are something that we're not, or that we can do something that we can't. So what I generally try to tell people is we try to breed and select as true to the real dog as possible. But this is what I'll say. If you set like 3 points on a line, Japan and Korea, this is how they raise their dogs. We're in the middle. If you look at us, compared to them, we're super soft, right? Like we are a lot more broader in our selection. We don't raise the dogs to be as hard. And again, there's a lot of reasons for that. I can't I can raise a dog like that. I can deal with a dog like that. I'm ready for it. I can deal with that any day. We import that all the time. But if I go put that out in somebody else's household, regardless as to whether or not they think they're ready for it, we're going to end up on the news. They're going to end up on the news. And I'm not looking for that. So I have to balance that here. Now, on the same token, if you compare us with the other end of the spectrum, a lot of what you see in the show breeders, not necessarily that there's a such thing as show lines in this breed, but the show breeders, the way they raise their dogs, we're going to look a lot more like the Japanese people. We're going to look a lot more like the Korean people, by virtue of the fact that we just exercise our dogs like we do and work them. So there's that, to put it in context. And then as far as what we do specifically, I study a lot of the rules from the perspective of a dog trainer and behavior therapist, because again, like what we were talking about with hump in the air above the dog's excited dominant states and stuff like that, I can study those rules, talk to those dog men, get the information as far as why is that rule there, instead of just looking at what, asking why. And they can educate me on what they're looking for and why. And then I can say, okay, in context of psychology, this, that, and the other thing, that's what this is creating. Well, I don't have to dogfight in order to create that mindset. I got other ways I can do it. And then talking to them about different things, like they'll say, hey, we think hunting is a good alternative. Get them on a boar. It's a good big fight. And I can talk to them and be like, hey, actually, there's some key differences between a boar and another dog. A Tosa, first off, like we're saying here, is raised for this. They come to that ring ready to do work. A pig didn't come to work, right? As tough as that boar might be, he doesn't want to be there. He'll fight if you get him cornered, if you wear him out, but he doesn't want to be there. He wants to go.
Right.
If a Tosa makes a ring makes a sound in a ring, then you got 2 or 3 judges sitting right there on the edge, and then another panel sitting right next to it. Everybody's going to hear that and call it. But if a Tosa makes a sound when matching with the hog, who's going to know? If they take 3 steps away in the ring, that's it. If they don't take 3 steps away from the hog, that's it. Right?
Would you say like, as far, because people always talk about defense drive, prey drive. Can you speak on that when it comes to Tosas? Like, as far as their prey drive, as far as like other animals, could they a person that say has a farm and has some livestock, could a Tosa fit in that environment? Because certain dogs, we all know a certain dogs is not able to be on a farm with all these animals. They're gonna kill the animals.
Yeah, I'd say absolutely. We actually, so our dogs are right here. There's cows right next to us. They're not mine. I feed them every once in a while across the fence, but they're not mine. They're my neighbors, and our dogs do great with them. Never had a problem. There's sheep down the road. There's goats that way. There's ducks that way, and chickens that way. There's horses both direction and cows both directions. There's farm dogs, and my dogs won't leave the street when we're walking by or running by. So if their dogs run up on us, that's one thing. Yeah. But if they stay out of the street, stay behind their fence line or whatever, my dogs don't even acknowledge their existence.
That's cool.
So yeah, when it comes to it, can they be used for that? Absolutely. On the same token,
that's good.
Yeah. Every kind of critter that you can find out here, my dogs have caught at least one,
But they also, okay.
Yeah. So caught, and I mean caught. I mean like a rabbit caught. Like I wasn't expecting that, but caught, raccoon caught, so on and so forth. So do they have good prey drive? Yes. Which do they tap into? I think it's more competition if they're in a match, match or something like that. And I think when it comes to protection work, it's competition and it's protection. A Tosa is not necessarily trying to hunt a threat, but they absolutely will confront it. And again, it's black and white. They're not talking about it or anything like that. They immediately move in between you and whatever it is, and they make a beeline for it. It's extremely direct. You're not going to get around them. You're not going to shake them or fake them, and you better not reach over them. That's all there is to it. You just need to go,
It'd be an ideal candidate for personal protection too.
Absolutely. Okay. I think that protection work is fighting. So it makes sense to use fighting dogs regardless of what fighting dog it is. And I understand that that's probably sound a little crazy talking about, like, especially when you consider certain fighting dogs like pits and stuff like that are meant to be man friendly and stuff. But again, I also think it depends on what drive you're tapping into. If you're tapping into a drive that makes them unsafe around people, then you probably shouldn't be doing that with any dog. But if you're working with certain natural drives and inclinations that they already have, my Tosa, if I go walking down the street and a bear comes out of nowhere, we don't have bears in Texas, but I'm just using an example, and a bear comes out of nowhere, my dog doesn't need bear aggression to confront that threat. And I don't have to worry about my dog in the future having bear aggression per se. They saw that individual, and the instinct that they tapped into was protection. The instinct that they tapped into was battle and war, and that is something that's a lot more constrained, a lot more consistent, a lot more, in my opinion, stable. So yeah, when it comes to protection work, I'll never go without one. at all.
So they can be protected. That's great, and it's they guardians, so the personal protection sentry. That's good. Before I ask my other question, I have somebody asking here. Can you read this on the screen? He said, "Can you ask them what's the best setup for an owner of these dogs? What type of space? Outdoor kennel, indoor all the time? How much work per day to keep them satisfied? Basically, what would a normal day look like?"
I think that's going to come down to your lifestyle. I've had people that were marathon runners got a dog from me, and it was their dream dog. They could take it with them while they were training, running I don't know how many miles a week, and not only could the dog keep up, but if somebody tried anything, the dog was more than capable of dealing with any issues. So there's that end of the spectrum, and then we've also got I know a one of the first litters I ever had. I had a puppy that went to a gentleman who had a 17-year-old Chihuahua, a 20-year-old cat, and the gentleman himself was just about ready to retire. He worked as a longshoreman down in the Houston Ship Channel, so he had shift labor. He'd be gone for like 12 hours a day. The dog would be at home alone with those other animals. Never an accident, never a problem, never an issue. Did just fine. And that gentleman will go for a walk around the block about as much as he could manage, and the dog was just fine with that. I think finding a way that works for you is going to be the key. So if you have an apartment, get out, get the dog a walk. If you have, even if you have a mansion with miles of real estate, you still need to do something with the dog because they're going to need exercise up here. But it's not the same as like having a collie where if you don't do it, well, there goes the farm. You know, you can have these dogs inside the house and forget they exist. Go to the room that you're at and lay down at your feet. Or if you let them in your lap, they'll lay down in your lap, chill out. Best Netflix and chill buddy you ever had. And that same dog, you can go outside and they will not be outworked by you or anyone else. You know, like,
that's amazing for them to be that. So for those who don't know, talk about the average size for your males and females, because I'm looking. Are they the size of like Great Danes? Are they that big as far as height wise, or what's going on with it?
So height wise, I think the average height for a male is probably around 30 inches. I've had males that are as low as 28. And then I've had males. My males right now, I think the shortest is 32, and the average is probably 33, 34, somewhere in that range.
Okay.
Then as far as the females, again, a female you should probably expect to be somewhere around 27, 28 inches on average. I've had females as low as 26. Currently, we don't have a female that's less than 30, which is irregular. Very, very much, but you know, it's definitely doable. As far as the top end of the spectrum, the tallest female I've ever seen is probably about 33 inches or heard of is 33 inches.
Wow.
And then the tallest male I've ever seen, I don't know what his actual height was, but I had a 32-inch male that I was there to pick up at the time that this guy was walking around, and the 32-inch male standing next to him came up about, like, if you say this was the dog's back line and this was his this was his back line and this was the bottom of his chest where his tuck up is, kind of body frame, the 32-inch male came up to like here-ish.
Wow.
It's maybe a little bit higher, somewhere around here. So you're talking about a dog, in my opinion, that was probably somewhere closer to 38 inches at the shoulder. Big dog. Are they all like that? Should you expect to see that? Absolutely not. It's probably a once-in-a-lifetime animal. But if we're talking about their range and what I've seen, that's what I would say.
And their weight, what's their average weight?
So I'll give you two ranges. So their average weight, most places, you're going to see people trying to get their males to at least 180 pounds or more.
180
or more. And then you're going to see them trying to get their females to $160 or more. And those are just kind of goal weights that it seems like people have when it comes to these dogs. I break it down by a BMI, and I say their height at the shoulder multiplied by a certain number to get their ideal weight. I think that if you look at like the dogs we produce, regardless as to what dog it is, if you look at their height at the shoulder, multiplied by 3.5, you'll never see them less than that in our kennel. And then multiply it by 4.5, and you'll never see them higher than that in our kennel. So our 33-inch males, for instance, they run somewhere around 120 to 140.
Yeah. Okay.
Anywhere else, any other kennel outside of Asia, if you go to Japan or Korea, then again, they're kind of more towards that function oriented. That dog is probably going to be 110, 120.
That's what I'm into. Yeah, that's what I personally. That's what I'm into. Because I mean, the extra weight. I mean, they already big anyway, so I don't see how the extra weight really benefits them.
Exactly. Fat is not an asset.
Yeah, it doesn't.
It's not helping them move. It's not padding anything. It's not strength. It's not even energy that they're going to use while working, right? So it is not an asset in any way. It is a liability, and it is a tax. So the more they carry, the more it works on them, not just their joints, but their heart, their health overall, their eyes. Every aspect of their health is affected by that. So yeah, when it comes to it, our dogs, you multiply that by about 4.5, and that's what you're going to get. If you go to like take one of these 33-inch dogs to somebody else's kennel, and you'll see a 220-pound or more dog. So literally 100 pounds or more than what we've got here, what we do here.
So speaking of your dogs, I see you do. Can you speak about like the health testing, and also since they are a mastiff, are they slow to mature, and do they have any health challenges that you had to deal with, or how does that work?
So yeah, they are slow to mature as a mastiff in the sense of physically. I think that the Japanese have the nail like dead on when they're testing these dogs at 18 months. I'd say that's about the time they start to mentally mature. I won't say they're fully mature at that point, but you got a dog. It's no longer a puppy. As far as health testing, what I would say is, again, we're trying to learn and grow and educate on this breed. And the more that I learn about it, the more that I see what we thought we knew yesterday actually needs to be clarified today. So take, for instance, a lot of people, when they do health testing on the joints, they do it at 24 months. If you're breeding Yorkies, like a lot of people just take that as a rule because that's what the OFA guidance says. But if you're breeding Yorkies, they're not going to do anything past a year, maybe sense. 18 months. You're good. You can test at that point. There's nothing else going to happen. If you're breeding Mastiffs on the other end of the spectrum, 24 months might not be old enough. And if you talk to certain vets, they want to see 30 months, some of them even 36 months, So what we're doing with testing right now is a lot of research. We're looking at what conditions are out there, how they're affected, looking at the big picture of how phenotype, color, things like that affect health and are linked to health, and trying to do as much research as we can with that. Right now, the only thing we can say for sure is genetic testing. That's the thing to start with. So that's what we've been doing. Running full genetic tests on every dog we've got here, every dog we've produced so far, here since we started it. And as we move forward, looking at how we want to do hip testing and elbow testing. One thing that blows my mind, the OFA has been in existence since the mid-1960s, and the Tosa has been here since the mid-1960s. And when I say that health testing for this breed has not been where it should be historically, if the first Tosa got here in 1966-ish, somewhere around there, There's only 100 dogs that have had their test results posted with the OFA since that time. 100. Mm-hmm. And of those 100, all of them have only ever had their hips tested, which means if right now I took one of my dogs to my vet and had their elbows tested, we would make history as the first people in history to ever do it. Mm-hmm. So when I'm looking at the health testing for this breed, again, I want to be doing the research and putting out there what's right instead of just saying, oh, we hip tested our dogs and therefore we met the minimum. No, because I can do that, but I can't say that I'm really concerned about the joints of this breed if everybody has tested their joints up to this point has only tested their hips, right? Not elbows, not patella. If you look at Labradors, almost 320,000 dogs have been tested on their hips, just their hips. If you look at Borbals, you're talking about 120,000. If you're looking at like all these different breeds that have only been here so long, all of them, hundreds of thousands, and we have 100. Like technically there's 101, but you can't count the 101. I know that one, right? Mm-hmm. So we're working on making an incentive structure and information and knowledge out there where people can do better. So we're doing genetic testing. We're working on what joint testing needs to look like. And then we're compiling what information is going to be necessary to be able to track what things need to be tested for specifically into the future. So right now it's just very broad. We're trying to see what all is out there, throw a broad net and see what comes up. I don't know if that makes any sense, but that's where we're at.
It makes sense. So take us through the process, the puppy application. Like, are any is it when you ask these questions, are there red flags that you're looking for to see like, oh, you can't have one of my dogs? And also, how does it work as far as the first person that put the deposit down? How do you, when you temperament test your puppies, what process do you take to say, okay, this puppy would be right for the person A, client B? How do you take us through that right there? Because you said you're great at reading dogs, and because we all know that you can have 10 puppies, same mom and dad, all 10, they're going to have different temperaments within them.
Temperaments, different personalities, yeah. So when I'm looking at my applications, we'll take an application. We actually ask for references as well, and we will check the references. And the purpose of a lot of that is to get an idea for the person. Say for instance, with the references, if I think that there's something, up, or I have any reservations about somebody, I don't need to check references to find out about you. That's not the purpose behind it. Mm-hmm. The purpose behind it is to learn more about you as a person, what you're looking for, what you're about, what your experiences have been, etc., and then being able to better match that up. And then the dogs themselves, again, just looking at the things so I've done a lot of volunteer work in shelters, and I see that the things that I'm sorry.
Are you a former adopt don't shop guy?
No, never been that. Never been that.
He wasn't part of the call. Okay, I got you.
No. Like if you want this interview, if you want to do a series, I have thoughts. I can share on that too. Yeah. But that being said, I do think that as a humanitarian, right? There's a responsibility there. Like, so I know this is kind of off topic, but we're out in the country. People will dump dogs all the time, and I'll find them and I'll bring them. I'll bring them here. I can train them. I know that I can. We have the space. They're not going to hurt my dogs, right? So when it comes to it, I know that I am in a position where I can help with that. And therefore, I know a lot of people, a lot of breeders that as breeders, we have knowledge. As a breeder, you've whelped puppies. You know everything that can go wrong. You got half of them you got your own shots. You got your own dewormers. You got connects for everything you could possibly need. You could run a vet clinic with everything except for a license from the average breeder. But when they see a dog on the street, I think so many people are so worried about, I don't want to be a backyard breeder, I don't want to run the risk of this or that or the other thing, that they drive on by and nobody stops. Whereas me, I see it like this. If I'm driving down the street and, I see a kid that's walking down the street, he's got no clothes, he looks hungry, looks lost, but I keep on driving because, we're in a certain part of town that, you don't know what kind of kid that is, right? You don't know what he's got. What if he's sick? This, that, or the other thing. I wouldn't be able to come home to my kids and say anything to them or look them in the face if I left that soul out there. So same thing is true to me with a dog. And I know that's not for everybody. I'm not trying to say everybody has to do that in order to be a good person or anything. People are in different positions and they have different tools to be able to work in different ways. Me, in my role, in my position, woe be to me if I don't. So when it comes to it, I get to work in a lot of different shelters and volunteer, help train shelter workers and stuff. And I think a lot of that is kind of rehabbing them to the idea that, hey, I am a breeder and I'm here to help. And when it comes to it, just kind of learning and seeing, you would think that the reasons why dogs end up in shelters is because they're too aggressive or they're, this, that, or the other. No, it's somebody got a dog because they thought it was cool. And they didn't really think about the fact that in a next year, they're going to school. They're going to college. They're not going to be able to take that dog on campus. And their parents don't want to keep it. They can't keep up with it. They have to rehome it. They got a dog and they weren't thinking about where they are in their life circumstances. And they don't have the stability that they need. And therefore that dog has to go. Or they weren't really committed to exercise. They weren't really committed to this, that, or the other thing. Or it's something like small. Like the dog barks too much and they live in an apartment, and rather than training or even being able to afford to train, I'm not trying to virtue signal and say they're bad. I'm just saying it's just not what you would think. This dog is here in this shelter and he's getting, back and back and back and back because he keeps giving return, and it's just because he barks.
Makes sense.
So
would you? I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I'm running my mouth. I'm sorry.
No. You get good, great information. So when you, how do you socialize and raise your puppies prior to, and what's the time frame when the client comes pick their, is it 8 weeks or is it a little longer? Or how are you raising the puppies while they're waiting, going through the process of being going to their own new owners?
A lot of what we do is manners training. So what I'm going to do is instead of spending so much time on like those little, the little Q-tips on their paws and stuff like that, I will spend more time on teaching them what no means, teaching them what come here means. Those are going to be things that people are going to use. I want that dog to know that before they go out the door. Things that aren't necessarily commands, but are important. You're going to find that my puppies, if you set them next to most people's puppies in any breed, let alone this one, they almost seem like, at first you might think they're sad. Like most other people's puppies are jumping all over the place and super excited and all that other kind of stuff. Whereas my puppies will come up to you and sit. And to me, that's the mark of a well-mannered dog. And I know that an excited, happy-go-lucky puppy, some people might like that. Some people might prefer that. And they might go, get that and work with that. But the vast majority of people don't actually want that. Some think they do. But when you have to deal with that as a dog, especially not when they're over 100 pounds, But with my dogs, what they're going to do from an early age, they shouldn't be jumping on you. They shouldn't be doing any of that. They shouldn't be just horking down food, knocking it out of your hands. You can walk by with a hamburger or a hot dog at eye level, and you can tell them no if you even need to say that much. And you don't have to worry about them messing with you. You know, even standing there to stare and drool at it, unless you're telling them, I will give it to you, they're not going to wait for it. They're just going to go do something else, you know, and that should be the puppies as well. The puppies that I put out, by the time they come to you, they should be better behaved than any dog you've currently got.
Wow.
Otherwise, I'm not doing my job right, you know, as far as I'm concerned.
That's serious.
Yeah. And when it comes to it, like, you know, again, speaking from this perspective of a dog trainer, a lot of times when people think of demo dogs, they think of, yeah, it's this dog that, like, you see these YouTube videos or whatever, or TikTok or whatever, and the trainer has the dog and they're like, foos, and the dog comes up and walks behind them, inside them, and it's like on their hip, and they put it between their legs and all that other kind of stuff, up, down, and push-ups and stuff, and that is their demo, and they're showing what their dog can do. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I find, you know, again, my experience has taught me the average person doesn't need that. They don't need that. What they need is a dog that they don't have to worry about. What they need is a dog they know that's not going to bite anybody. It's not going to get into anything. It's not going to destroy their house when they're gone, so on and so forth. So for me, when I'm working as a dog trainer, working an event, I'll have a demo dog with me, but I'll go and I'll sit that dog next to a table, and it'll be like, this is Amina. She's my demo dog. And what she's showing is what she's not doing. You can walk by with your kids. You can walk by with your dog. This is a pit bull, by the way. You know, you can walk by with your dog. She doesn't even care. You can walk by with whatever, do whatever you want to do. It's what she's not doing. That's the show. And I can, in this crowd, tell her, go get in your bed. She'll go get on that mat, and she'll stay put. Go get in your crate. She'll go get in that crate. It's not flashy. It's not spectacular or, you know, fireworks going off, but I say it once and I don't have to yell. You know, I think that's what most people need when it comes to their dogs. So when it comes to the dogs we put out, that's what I want to see. And even though, like, we only have them for 3 months, 12 weeks.
So you do at 12. So you let them go at 12 weeks.
Yeah.
So it's like an extra 4 weeks they with you then. Okay.
Exactly.
So 8.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So they're not like trained to the teeth by the time they go out at that point. But they definitely have that foundation. You should have a well-behaved dog. They shouldn't be chewing or digging. They shouldn't be causing havoc. They shouldn't be barking or going crazy, using the restroom in the house, any of that kind of stuff, you know. So, and then by the time you get ready to start training them, they should be well on their way, well on their way. You shouldn't have to be working to get their attention. You shouldn't have to be working to deal with them in different scenarios and stuff like that. You should be ready to plug and play whatever you want to use that dog for. They're ready. They're primed.
So as a dog trainer, how do you, because the word socialize, people think socialization means you just let the dog out and let other people pet them. How would you define socialization, and how do you socialize your dogs?
You
can't pet them but that's what everybody think. That's just socialization. That's it.
Yeah. So what I would say is, instead of using the word socialization, I would use the word conditioning or upbringing, honestly. Because I think, like, for instance, one thing I see as a trainer is I see a lot of people who have dogs that are dog aggressive or dog reactive. And it's not because the dog is actually aggressive to other dogs or trying to be. It's because they heard somewhere that socialize is what you should be doing. So they got that dog out and they socialized, but they didn't put structure. And what ends up happening is that the dog has an expectation now when it sees other dogs that it's going to get to meet them. And if it doesn't get to do that, then that expectation builds up into frustration, and that frustration turns into aggression. Now, if you let that dog off the leash, nothing's going to happen. It's going to go over and say hi. And if the other dog growls and bites at it, it's going to wonder why. It's not going to have a clue. When it comes to what we do, again, just kind of using it as upbringing, I want to expose you to different situations and scenarios, but I'm also not going to wait and see how you respond to it. I'm going to show you, and I'm going to tell you, this is what you're going to do. Yeah, that dump truck just passed by, and we're going to practice. We're going to go over here to the dump where they're driving by every day. We're going to practice walking and just doing our thing and ignoring them. If we have other dogs, if we have guest dogs, so we run boarding out of here as well. We'll have guest dogs over and I'll let them meet the puppies. The dogs get a broader view of other dogs and stuff like that instead of just seeing Tosas, you know? So same way, again, I'm not just going to sit there and say, oh, it's a Tosa. It should be, trying to dominate other dogs. No, you're going to learn manners. You're going to learn manners.
People, whoever buying a puppy from you, they got like some extra benefits from buying a dog from you, because some people don't even have the first. A lot of breeders aren't trainers, and a lot of people that they don't have the time to imprint the dogs like you're doing. That's amazing.
Absolutely. And when it comes to it, I think a lot of those things, like we'll get people that'll ask about our price point, like why you said your price point there as opposed to so and so over in Europe has a price point that's here. When it comes to it, I think that I look at those things as I don't want my dogs in a shelter. I don't want my dogs on the news. I don't want my home insurance calling me and saying, hey, what was that dog you said you had? I'd never heard of it before. Oh yeah, so they made the 6 o'clock news last night. We don't insure you anymore. And even more so, I want. It's not even really about that, like just a fear of what might happen if things go wrong. It's a passion and a pursuit of what it should be.
Yeah.
So
I want you mind speaking on the pricing points, and also a lot of questions. They said, how do you decide if a buyer gets full breeding rights or pet only? How does that work as far as the buyer?
So starting with our price point is $7,500. Okay. If we have a special breeding, the price point is higher. And generally speaking, these are dogs that are either dogs that are just hard drive, or are imported directly and themselves are either match dogs from Korea or Japan, or are direct like children of it. Gotcha. And if I'm pulling together a litter like that, then it takes more to get those dogs. It takes more to work with those dogs and invest in those dogs. So that's why we set our price point higher. It's not just, oh, these are rare, let's charge more. No.
That's fair. That's beyond fair. If you sold your dogs for $2,000, that would take away the exclusivity of it.
Yeah, and further, like
client base too. I get you.
And I think if I'm going to sell a dog for that price, that's part of the reason I set a price that allows me to work with them the way that I want to work with them. And that's why I can have a dog that goes out at 12 months and is trained, because I'm going to tell you that at the time they're 4 weeks old, they can sit down to about a half-pound meal, 4 or 5 weeks old. By the time they're 8 weeks, they can eat a pound twice a day, or get pretty darn close to it. So when we're talking about a litter of puppies, these are very healthy dogs. That male Mufasa, he came from a litter of like 18. I think.
So what's the average size litter? I was going to ask you that.
So until recently, until like the last 3 years, I never had a litter less than 10.
Wow.
And like the average for me and the average I'd seen would probably have been somewhere around 15. Whereas now I'll say what I've seen, kind of talking to more people and stuff like that, I'll say the average is probably, I'd say a good average to expect is 10. But
that's above average, actually.
Yeah, it's above average, like for what you'd expect from most dogs. This is a very, very healthy and virile breed. But when it comes to each individual person's experiences, how the dogs are bred, how many times, etc., I don't know what those numbers are going to be like. But I would say, again, if you have less than 10, fine, but you should expect to have more. You should expect to have a lot more. 12, 13 minimum is what I would expect. And when it comes to being able to work with that many mastiffs at the level that I need to be able to work with that at, if I need staff to come in and help with this while I take my wife out for dinner, because we've been running a gauntlet of 100% watching these puppies from the moment they were born till they were 4 weeks. We need to be able to do that. And again, I'm not going to just do that just because we can. I think that directly translates into the quality of the puppy that you get. A dog that, again, our staff are professional trainers. So people that know what they're doing. It's not just somebody that's sitting there watching the dog. It's somebody that even when I'm not there, they can continue that training. They know what the dog is supposed to do, and they can manage that dog properly. And a lot of that is going to continue to, again, I think, contribute to the quality of what we put out. And if I could say one more thing on that, I'd say, like, I want to be clear that I think in dogs, regardless of the breed, you're going to have a lot of people that think that they're going to make themselves bigger or better by trying to put other people down. These dogs are trash. Those people are trash. This, that, or the other thing. My dogs are all that's out there, and that's all that's good, right? I want to be clear that while I know a lot of people talk like that, that's not what I'm trying to be about or say here. There are a lot of really good breeders that I've come across Europe, Asia, etc., and I can drop names and give referrals to every last one of them. When I need to get dogs imported, they're the people I go to. So, of course, I think they're wonderful. But on that same token, I want to say that what we try to put here is the best family member that you can get. And I'm positioned to be able to produce a certain type of dog. Like you said, they can't train their dog. They can't, they're not trainers. They can't do a lot of the things that we can do here. So does that mean that you're getting a lesser quality dog from them? Absolutely not. That's where we get our dogs sometimes. But would the value of the end result of what you're getting be better from us? I think so.
Based on what you're doing, 7,500 to that's more than fair. Another question coming in, and if I'm going too far, just let me know. He said, what happens if your puppy is not meeting your standards between like 8 and 12 weeks? Like if they're like overly shy or weak nerved, how do you handle that? And do you think a dog that has weak nerves can potentially be developed into a working prospect? Because we know how nerves are. Yeah. Nerves is like important.
Yeah. Okay. So let me break that down into two parts. The first one would be, do I think a dog with weak nerves can be a working prospect? I think that a lot of people talk about genetics these days, and they talk about it because it's popular to talk about. I think it's a fad. I think it's a trend. I think it wasn't something people really talked about 10 years ago, and it's not going to be something people talk about so much in 10 years. Or even if it is, the next fad will still be bigger. I think that if dog trainers sit down and get honest and get real, the essence of why we exist and the essence of why we go out to go help people train their dogs, be it a dog that's like chasing its own tail or barking and growling and biting people, etc. The essence of why we do what we do is because fundamentally we have to believe things can change for the better, and not just superficially, but for the real. Because if we thought it was just superficial, we have no business leaving that dog in that household. We should take it because we're the only ones that can manage it. When it comes to a dog's nerves, I think that fundamentally any dog can be worked with and or conditioned to do just about anything. And especially when we're not even talking about mental states, we're talking about activities. Oh, bet. If all I have to do is make a dog that bites, there's a billion reasons why a dog might bite. I've seen them all, right? I've got them all. Like, I don't know if you guys can see, like I got I don't know if you can see those 2 marks right there.
Yeah,
But
I can see it.
that was a mastiff, right? Like there's 1,000 reasons why a dog will bite. And if you just want a dog to bite, you can do any task with any dog. And there's that. But I am going to say that you shouldn't work with a dog without addressing its nerves. If you're trying to train a dog that has weak nerves without addressing those nerves, you're creating a problem. If, on the other hand, you know how to address those and you know how to stabilize that temperament first, and then you can build off of that, that's no different than if the dog never had the problem in the first place. I would also say we can't always say why those things come to be. You know, I mean, I had a client that I was working with a dog that completely fine, was doing good. We were there to train for something else, but we were walking down the street and a bag is blowing across. And this bag is blown across. The dog's looking at that bag, and it's just a bag. There's nothing to it. The dog's not worried about it, but it just sees it. And before it looks away, a car wreck happens behind us. And if you've ever been by a car wreck, it sounds like the biggest shotgun just went off in your ear. And as far as the dog was concerned, that trash bag is what made that boom noise, and it startled him, He didn't have behavior issues or anything like that, or nervousness prior to that. But from that, those bags will do it, So again, working with him with those bags, helping him just get through that, never had a problem again with any other bag. You could open up your trash and do your stuff and do just fine. He didn't have a problem with that. But again, a lot of that came to understanding dog psychology. So there's that. And then as far as just kind of answering that broader question of, do I think a dog with weak nerves can be worked with? Address those nerves, then build the dog. Yes. Don't address those nerves. Absolutely not. And then in our kennel, in our program, I honestly don't really see dogs like that. And I hesitate to say that because I don't want to misrepresent what's there. Like, oh, all our dogs have great nerves or this, that, or the other thing. No, I don't really see that. I see, I think a lot of how we raise them has to do with that. I have seen dogs have some very specific responses to different scenarios. For instance, I had somebody that got a dog from me that called me up not too long after. They were saying they took the dog to the store. A dog came up to it, and the dog they got from me just, completely laid down and didn't try to fight, didn't try to challenge or anything like that. And they weren't expecting that. They were worried that the dog was going to be anxious or anything like that. And I was telling them, what you should expect from a dog at that age, 4 or 5 months old, should be that. If you got a puppy that's trying to fight dogs at that age, you shouldn't see that from a puppy, maybe competing with dogs that are their age and competing with their siblings and other puppies, sure. But competing with an adult dog, you shouldn't really see that. And further kind of explaining and putting into context how that happened, how that thing goes on, and getting more information with that, we were able to come to the understanding that it was likely just as much due to the fact that the dog just got there. They had already seen other dogs. They'd already worked with other dogs and all that other kind of stuff all the time. So there wasn't an issue there. And then as far as temperament and personality, among the dogs that they're regularly around, this particular dog was number 2, second only to her older brother, So again, it wasn't a lack of confidence. It was specific circumstance. So I think that's a good question. I think that's something that I always try to keep an eye on. But I think the more that I look into it, if I find such a dog, the more I realize, again, it tends to be more circumstantial. And working with that dog, come to find out, well, this is the cause and this was that. And, we don't really have that issue. And on that same note, we got a dog here named Haru who we got because of a concern about his nerve. But again, it's all about the hands that dog is in, because I never had a problem with it. Never had a problem with him here. In fact, he's the opposite. You know, if I had to pick one dog that's not taking any bribes and doesn't care who you are, if you didn't give my permission to be here, you better not be here. That's the guy. If I'm traveling across the country, that's the guy I'm taking with me. If my wife is going for a walk and I'm not here, that's the guy she's taking with her. A very serious dog, you know. But again, I think it's just as much, are they put in the circumstances and with the people that are going to bring that out of them? Are they put with the people that are going to recognize what issues might be in any dog that you get and address those, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a really, really good question. Yeah. I don't know if that answers it, but I hope it does.
Yeah, I understand, because like you said, every all dogs aren't the same. I mean, that's just like anything. You can have a family of 10 and everybody's not going to be as athletic, and they're going to have they just not going to be. That's just the way it is. I mean,
and honestly, like, even if we were to look at the opposite end of the spectrum, just the same as you can have dogs that appear nervy for different reasons, you can have the opposite. You can have dogs that appear confident for different reasons. And I think one good example of that is, like, as a trainer and as a dog psychologist, whenever somebody calls me and they're talking about a dog that has an obsession with anything or a fixation with anything, I automatically know I don't have to talk to them about anything further. I already know that dog is going to be high energy, very high energy, and they're going to be anxious and they're going to be insecure. And you'll be like, man, that dog is the best hunting dog I've ever seen, the most aggressive and hardest mouth, hardest hitting dog I've ever seen. What do you mean that dog is insecure? And I'm going to say this. The dog is latched on to that situation and obsessed with it and fixated on it. Say the dog that is always going outside and thinking about the squirrel, ready for the squirrel, etc. They're not just a hunting dog. This is a dog that is obsessed. And the reason why is because they know how to be in that scenario. So they find a comfort for it and they go looking for it every time, every place. The test and the way to tell that is, if you go to that dog and tell it, no squirrels right now, no laser right now, no other dog right now, watch and see what happens. If they're truly stable, then they'll be like, okay, all right, boss, go do something else. But when you remove that situation that makes them feel powerful, when you remove that thing that lets them feel like they know what's expected of them and what they're supposed to do, and they immediately go to uncertainty, then you see the nervousness, then you see the anxiety, the insecurity, and you see all that start to pop out. You wouldn't see that unless you remove that shell, you know? So I guess just kind of getting to the meat of that question, again, very good question. I think that's something that it requires a very, very good eye. It requires a very firm understanding of what states of mind are, how they affect a dog and stuff like that. And I don't mean you have to like read 1,000 books or anything like that. The better dog person you will be is going to be decided by how simple you are. The more you get caught up in, like, everybody's newest term for how to train a dog or whatever, and they got another term, but they don't know how to deal with it. You know, I'm telling you, man, you just stick around for 5 years and it's going to be a new term. And I got somebody, like, when I grew up, aggressive. If a dog bit, it was aggressive. That's what it was. It wasn't derogatory. It was aggression, you know? Whereas now, I said aggression the other day, and I had somebody like just stink eye, like 100%. Like, oh, you're just one of those abusive, like, old school military train. No, I'm not. They're like, the word is reactive. You should say reactive. The dog is reactive. Okay, look, I don't care what words you say to describe it. If you can't train it, go. You know, like, shit, get out of my face. I don't care what. I mean, shoot, you're gonna correct if somebody from Brazil comes up and calls it ojeriza, right? Or if somebody from Spain comes up and calls it something in Spanish, are you going to say they're not using the right word too? Okay, so then the word doesn't matter. If you don't know how to work with it, you don't know how to work with it. Using a different word to describe it isn't doing anybody any favors. It's just moving the goalposts and making it more confusing for people that are trying to learn. So don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to go that route. But what I am trying to say is once you have that fundamental and essential understanding, and the experience of knowing sometimes there's a lot more beneath what's on the surface. The more I find it's not so cut and dry as this dog has good nerve, that dog does not. This dog is assertive, that dog is not, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And like just kind of tapping back on the question you were asking about how I match dogs, I don't choose a dog for someone else. Unless, like, if I see somebody that's making a decision and I look at their profile that we get from their application and I just know this is not the dog for you, then I'm not going to make that decision for you. I want you to make that decision for yourself. But you're not making it through the application process if you're the kind of person that's going to say, I only like black dogs, so I want a black Tosa. I don't care about anything else. It's like, okay, well, thank you for your time. There's that breed, you know, or whatever, you know, you can go elsewhere, you know. But if I'm looking at, you know, if I'm looking at somebody, they're looking at the dogs and stuff, I'll tell them, hey, you know, you're looking at this kind of lifestyle. I think this dog would be a better match for you. Or, you know, the dog you chose, I think lines up exactly with what you're looking for. I think it's going to work out just fine. You know, I can say that. And I'll advise and things like that. If I see somebody about to make a bad choice, I can say, hey, look, this dog is going to be high drive. They're going to be a lot of work, more than what you're trying to do. We got some very laid back dogs. We got some dogs that are more on than off, you know. But when it comes to it, ultimately, you know, it kind of goes together. Even saying, just because somebody lives in an apartment, that doesn't make them a bad choice. Just because somebody hasn't had experience with giant mastiffs, if you can raise a well-behaved and polite Australian cattle dog or blue heeler, you're good. You know, it translates. You'll be all right. You know, like, you know. But if you can't manage your Yorkie, you know, or if you've had a whole bunch of dogs that you collected as tokens, but you never really learned how to work with them well, you know, it's probably not going to be a best fit for you, you know.
What advice, it's a two-part question. What advice would the 2025 Corey give to the 2015, 2005 Corey? And what do you think the current Corey would give to the 2035 Corey in the future?
Gotcha. I think that if I was looking back at myself then, I think one of the biggest things I would tell myself is ignore the noise. Just first starting getting out and stuff like that. I was, who was I, right? I was a high school or college student, and I did my work, I did my learning, I did my education. I knew how to train dogs and stuff like that. I knew psychology. I knew how to work with dogs, and I knew how to create a good dog. But again, a lot of the people that were in the breed at the time about ready to retire age, right? They've been doing it for longer than I've been alive. Some of them twice as long as I've been alive. And a lot of them had a lot more opinions than anything on me and stuff. And I think I let a lot of that go to get inside my head and took a big step back from the public eye. 2013, 2014, and didn't come back to the public eye until around 2022, 2023, somewhere in there.
Okay.
Maybe 2021. I don't remember exactly. But the difference in the field now, going from back there where there were so many people that had these dogs. It wasn't everybody. There was never a time where there was a popular breed, but it felt like there was a breeder per state. You know, felt like there were people out there. If you wanted to look for them, you could find them. and stepping out of it and then stepping back into it, recently, 2021, 2022, 2023, and reaching out and realizing so many people are gone, and learning about what happened, trying to figure out what happened. A lot of people were saying that, yeah, you were these big names and these big, big people and stuff like that, but I could sit on the phone and talk to you. And when I get information from you, I knew it was honest. Whether or not it made you look good or bad, you were straight with me.
Yeah.
A lot of them, when we stepped out of the picture, they didn't have that anymore. So a lot of people left the breed. A lot of things went down. And now in 10 years, we went from, like I said, it at least felt like there was a breeder per state. There was certainly plenty of big names out there. Now we're the only kennel in the U.S. And I feel like,
oh wow, you the only kennel in the U.S.? Wow,
only kennel in the Americas, North, South America.
Wow, that's I wonder who. I had to talk to Leo. I wonder who got his Tosa Inus from, because this is probably like 15, 20 years.
Yeah, they could have gotten them from several different people. There's several different people that worked with the breed at that time, especially a lot of big names, But again, a lot of them aged out. A lot of them, like a lot of people that were coming to the breed, wanted to get into it. There was they got a bad taste put in their mouth because of a lot of what they saw from some of the people that were there and stuff. And when I get back in, if I could say I had one regret about it, it would be thinking that the only thing I could contribute was breeding dogs, and thinking that the only thing that I could contribute was necessarily, doing things like that, the things that you think about when you're thinking about a kennel. No, I could have been putting together the breed club 10 years ago, and it could be 10 years ahead right now. I could have been putting together a breed rescue 10 years ago, and it could be 10 years established by now. I could have been doing so much more. We could have had a big enough name that when people are bringing these dogs in from Korean dog meat farms, or bringing these dogs in from Europe, or inheriting these dogs from deceased relatives, and they don't know what that dog is or how to manage it, they could at least know, if they look up online, Pride Rock Tosas, that's somebody I can talk to and ask,
I think you're on your way now. I think you actively doing that now. You in the process of. It sounds like you're in the process of transitioning and the resurgence of the Tosa Inu. So
yes,
you got a lot of you got a big influence
yes.
on the dogs.
Yes, and that's it. Absolutely. Like, same thing with like what you're doing right now. If you got into your head that the only way you can contribute to dogs and the only way you can have any merit is by breeding and what you breed, or having to have this kennel or that thing or this, that, the other thing, there wouldn't even be this channel, which is a shame, because there's information that's getting out there. There's interviews that are happening. There's people that are getting heard, and good information is getting out there.
Yeah.
I think through that. So the things that could have happened, and you don't have to look back and say, if only. Like, shoot, not just advice I would give myself back then, but my advice that I would give you right now: don't stop. Don't stop. If you see something, that if you got that vision that you're thinking of 5-10 years from now on where you want to build this thing, don't let nobody rob that from you, and don't let nobody try to tell you what that's worth. Because honestly, even you aren't going to know what that's worth until you get down there and realize, oh, that was it. What was it? Apple was a program. Amazon was a mail order book library.
Yeah.
You could go down the list of what they started as, but that's what I would say. And then, like, me 10 years from now, I would hope that by that time, the breed is established in the Americas. And I don't necessarily mean we have to have a minimum number of dogs per se, because I'm not looking for everybody and their mama to breed them necessarily, just indiscriminately. but I would like to see enough of the right people, not just people that are knowledgeable about dogs, but the way they work with and treat other people, the way they educate and invest in other people around them and invest for the future and understand the implications for the future of the breed. Seeing that in 10 years, that's what I would hope. And the me then, I would hope that he can look back at me and say it was worth it.
Right.
You know.
So that's amazing. So as we come to the close, I just got a few more questions for you. So who would you like, knowing what you know about a Tosa, if you had to go against Corey, your twin, and you had to use another Mastiff, what Mastiff would you use to try to beat yourself?
That's a good question.
Who's your evil twin or your good twin? What other Mastiff you say I'm a beat twin in any competition? What other Mastiff would you use to compete with you to beat you?
I'd say just about any Mastiff. There are some Mastiffs that I feel like they would take 10 years of work to get to the point where they would be suitable for that. But just about any breed of Mastiff, I think the only thing most Mastiffs need is a proper diet and to get off the sofa. I've worked with English Mastiffs, Italian Mastiffs, Danes, you name it. I've worked with all of them. And I can say, again, if the person that owns that dog has the idea in their head that the dog has to be at least 50 inches at the shoulder or at least 5,000 pounds, then I can't do anything with that. I can't work with that as far as trying to use that to compete. But
because your dog it sounds like it got heat tolerance, excellent work ethic, stamina, and endurance.
Yeah.
And I'm not an expert, but I'm not sure if all Mastiffs are like that.
Well, again, I think that's going to come down to how they're bred. I think there are people, if you dig around in each Mastiff, like for instance, would I say the average Instagram Borbal is a dog that is worth considering as a competitor? Absolutely not. No, that's a dog that's just big for the sake of being big. But one program that I've been checking out here recently, Dichotomy Borbals, if you look them up, they make a working dog. And their Borbals, they don't have short, puggy nose. They don't have overloaded muscles or fat, really is what it is. They're dichotomy. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, especially if you get a chance to interview them or something, that'd be a really good channel to check out, really good people to check out. If you're looking at like dogos, for instance, people that are running their dogos and hunting hogs down here in the South versus people that are just producing a big, heavy dogo that's got these long, droopy cheeks and stuff, again, you're going to find a lot more health problems in that dog that's bred for looks. But I do think that as awesome as my breed is, as awesome as I love, and as much as I love these dogs, just 100% being honest, I do think that there's a lot more in the average Mastiff than what's given credit for. Like, Great Danes were boar hunters. Granted, they've been dramatized, but they're still the foundation dog there. They're still the base dog there. English Mastiffs, the only thing that's happened to them over the past 100 years is they just keep getting fatter and fatter, and people want them to be fatter and fatter. But this is the same dog that used to have their middle toe removed because they were running down deer. And they were owned by the poor people and the commoners, some of them. And the commoners couldn't own property, and therefore they couldn't hunt. They didn't own the right to hunt or have that. So these dogs had to have their middle toe removed because they could catch deer. You know, I think that, again, certain Mastiff breeds are going to take more work than others for sure.
Yeah.
If you want to get there. But I really do think I could take a good bully cutter. As a matter of fact, I got a friend, Ash Bergman. She works with bully cutters, Sucha bully cutters. She has a dog named Mufasa, a red male, that if you sat him next to Dante, you wouldn't know the difference. they look like litter mates more than his sisters. There's a gentleman over in Vietnam that I'm associates with, and they're making hybrid dogs over there, and they have a bully cutter Tosa hybrid litter that I could send you pictures of, and you could not tell the difference between that and a full Tosa or a full bully cutter. You wouldn't be able to tell the difference between the two. And as a matter of fact, they look more Tosa than some Tosas, you know.
Tosa could possibly have the stronger genes then.
Yeah, I think stronger genes. I think more adherence to a functional dog in the breeding and also in the selection and stuff like that. But if I have to go out and get a dog right now, go out and get a Mastiff right now to compete with a Tosa, I don't know the dog that would exist. Really, there are some that are close, but I don't know the dog that would exist. But on the same token, if you're giving me 3 to 5 years, I could work with most of them. And I can clean up a lot, and I can get a dog that'll work. I can get you a kind of Corso that'll clear a fence without touching it. I can get you a Great Dane that can run as long as you can ride a car, ride a 4-wheeler. You know, we can do that. You know, but again, a lot of that, like what's his face down there in Diamond Grit kind of Corsos.
Oh, I think is his name Lamont? I think I might have seen him on. I forget what. Maybe I seen it on NWA. Shout out to NWA County Course. I might have seen it on there. Maybe that's.
I don't know if he's been there. He might have been on there. It wouldn't surprise me. They do a lot of good work. But yeah, Diamond Grit. He's got kind of Corsos that he's running down there in Florida, in that Florida heat, hunting hogs, running stuff like that. You know, so I think in any breed, if you look, they're there. They're not the one, you know, they're not popular. Everybody doesn't know about them and stuff like that, but they're there. And again, you give 1-2 generations of somebody that comes in and is serious to build something, you could turn just about any breed around like that. You know, it just takes somebody that's committed to that, as opposed to, like, I think one of the things that's the only reason, or the few reasons why the Tosa is still what they are, is because of the fact that the AKC doesn't recognize them. It's because of the fact that the Canada Kennel Club doesn't see them as a breed. It's because of the fact that even though they've never done anything in a lot of different countries, because they're banned there, they can't get popular. And I'm not saying that popularity kills a dog, but I am saying that
popularity kills a dog.
Yeah, well, I think it does. I think that what's popular kills a dog. I think that if you go to Japan, you can find people that have Tosas. And I'm going to tell you, those Tosas wouldn't be alive if they couldn't do what they do. Whereas if you come here to the U.S. or you go to certain countries, you might find fewer people that have Tosas, and they are rare. But are they healthier? Are they better? Absolutely not. You know? So if we're talking just numbers itself won't save or hurt a breed, but what the quality is that you're putting out. And what, again, like we're saying, what you're selecting for, what you're doing with them, that's going to be what decides it, whether you have 2, 10, or 20, you know? And that's, I think, kind of the philosophy, what we're working with here with as many, like a lot of kennels, even you might have 2, 3, 4 dogs tops. Whereas right now we have more than 10. I know we're not supposed to say, you know, a lot of people, they don't really say how many, so I won't say how many, but we definitely have more than 10. And when it comes to it, again, we want that genetic variety.
Exclusive, so I mean, you would want to have more.
Exactly.
You need to develop like what your goals are. You're gonna need more than 10.
Exactly.
You're only one, so you're gonna have to have way more than 10.
Exactly. Otherwise, we'll get a genetic bottleneck real quick, you know. So yeah, just kind of looking at that. If I didn't have the Tosa, like if the Tosa didn't exist, I might would go with like a good bully cutter,
Bully cuddle. Wow, that's amazing.
I would probably go with a good Borbal kind of Corso. Either of those are the same to me. If you got a good one. There are a couple other dog breeds that I would go with that are less popular. A good sports type, functional type American Bulldog, absolutely. That was not a less popular one. It's just one that popped into my head. There's a lot of really good dogs out there, and I don't know if it's that they're all just good and I'm right about that, or if I'm just too much of a fanboy. And I see a good dog. I'm still an animal lover at heart. You know, it's like, shoot, man. There are
Now, for the people, a lot of people, like we in the chat, we into like strengthening, conditioning, and diet and stuff. So you got any gems for the general world, or even for anybody, as far as how to condition your dog and get them in shape? And also, what are some of the things that you feed your puppies, and what are some of your recommendations to make sure your dog can reach their full potential as far as diet?
So I'd say that a lot of what I learned about nutrition came from a lot of the old heads over in Japan. What little they would say, if ever they said something, I was taking my notes and I was doing it. So there are some breed specific things, like with this breed, you want to watch their skull development. If their head is developing nicely along with their body as they grow, then you're doing good. If it starts to look like it's getting a little bit behind, then you can boost their calcium intake. If you're going to boost their calcium intake, then you need to boost their potassium, and let down a little bit on the protein. If we're talking about like just, I guess, tips and tricks on conditioning, I think balance is what I've always strived for. Being able to look at, for instance, the dogs on a genetic level, I can see there are some dogs that are normal, some dogs that have one copy of a gene that makes them more muscular, and then they have two copies of a gene that makes them even more muscular. And if I'm working with them and working on how to work with each dog to train them, conditioning and getting them into balanced shape, the dog that is the normal one, I'm going to focus more on power exercises and building up that power muscle, because they're not going to do it as much. They can run for miles for all day if you want. They'll never stop. But you need to build up some power muscles to help balance that out. If I have a dog that's in between, then I'm going to work on a balance of both. If I have a dog that's on the other end of the spectrum and they are that, super muscle type and super swole type, then we can't just have them walk around with those big old muscles getting ready to spasm out. We need to work them more on endurance. So that dog, I'm going to focus more on distance, repetition, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then as far as a few things, I'll say, if you want your Tosa to be super athletic, you need to teach them that they can be. If you get a puppy, and a Tosa puppy is not going to know it can really jump. If they get ready to jump, they're going to leave their back legs on the ground and put their front legs up. Okay. But if you want them to be able to jump and be super athletic, you need to start teaching them that they can jump. I'm not talking about jumping off from heights, because you're going to hurt their joints like that. But just showing them even small jumps and stuff like that, teaching them to get those legs off the ground, and then before long, they got it. They know. If you have an adult dog that you haven't taught that, then get them down to weight and then start working with them the same, and you'll be fine. But it's easier to do when they're puppies. I think raise what you want to have when they're grown, and understand it's going to be a lot harder to turn that around. That could be temperamentally, that could be physically, be whatever it is. I can start an in-shape puppy and keep an in-shape puppy really easy. Getting an overweight or out of shape dog conditioned and in shape might take me 90 days to 6 months, especially if I'm going to take my time and make sure it's healthy and proper, so there's that. And then as far as diet, Watch your dog's activity level. Your more active Tosa is going to burn through calories by existing. Your more laid back dog is going to be just fine. I've had dogs that can eat less than a German Shepherd. And then I've had dogs that I had a boy that could sit down to a 10-pound bag of chicken and then come back like, okay, where's the rest? In one meal. So when it comes to just looking at what we feed here, we'll do 50-50. We'll do kibble, and then we'll do raw meal. It's again to try to kind of balance out the two. I really want to work away from processed kibble. I do the highest quality I can, but we're still fleshing out what raw looks like for Tosas, because I tried doing all raw, and whenever I try it so far, a lot of the recommendations that I get comes from people with other breeds and other lifestyles, and I find that on Tosas consistently, it's just not enough calories. You will go in 90 days from healthy, in shape, good, fit looking dogs to skeletons walking around looking like ghosts if you're not careful. And again, I think that there's a lot behind that, and there's a lot that supports it. Like a random fact is in Korea, in the dog meat farms, they will use Tosas for dog food, like to eat the dogs.
Wow, I thought that was just I thought that was a rumor. They really do eat dogs.
No, they will. It's something that's less and less common, thankfully.
Wow, okay.
But it's still definitely a thing. There are definitely huge farms that have plenty of dogs, and Tosas are one of the most popular breeds if they're using a particular breed. And the reason why is because their muscle to fat ratio is considered perfect. That, like, just their natural balance is perfect. And it's kind of a dark way to look at it, but understanding the implications of what that means on their genetic makeup and their genetic health, right? Yeah. When it comes time to managing a Tosa and keeping them in good shape, it's actually harder to make a fat dog than what you might think.
If they're active, yeah.
They're active. They are active and they are fit naturally. They're really, really good dogs. And if you start working them and really working them, then they respond to it really well. Their body, their condition, their muscles, really, really well. So yeah, just kind of being able to do that. Who, if you don't mind me asking, who is that?
The dog right there?
Yeah.
Oh, that's Jaguar. That's what.
Okay.
Yeah, that's Jaguar.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. Jaguar got a little Tosa Inu in him. That's why I was interested in the interview.
Okay.
Levi used Tosa.
Yeah.
Tosa. He took it to a pit bull. So I'm sure you know.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this as we come to the end. If you had a special, I'm talking about, you can be anything that will help you and your dogs. You can develop any gift, and what I mean by gift, you can have a gift of flying, seeing through walls, superb hearing, like whatever sense of smell. What gift would you have for yourself if you can just have any gift? And it has to be like a high gift, like nothing like extraordinary gift.
Okay.
What would you have?
And you said it's something for me and my dogs?
So it could just be for you or just something.
Oh. Shoot. It would probably be the ability to talk to animals just outright, like Dr. Doolittle.
Like verbally? Because I'm sure you can do it in
Yeah. So a lot of what we do is communication.
That's nice. So
yeah, well, being able to just talk to them and stuff like that, I think it would be and like, it's not because it's like I love animals, but it's not from like a oh, the animals, I need to hear their voices kind of perspective, but because I think it would be hilarious.
Were
Like,
you speaking English? What language were you speaking? You'll have your own language. What was you speaking?
whatever it is, I think it would be,
Oh,
I
you'll
think
speak their language. Okay.
I think it would be hilarious if a
Josh.
dog could, like, if one of these dogs could just sit there and tell you what they've seen watching me.
That'll be good right there.
Like, they'd be like, wait, this is the highest species? Like, what?
Yeah.
you know? you
Yeah,
know?
that'll be amazing.
I think it'd be hilarious. I think dogs would probably be like kids that talk too much. Like, you know, the kid that shows up in the office and it's like, you know, Dad, your boss doesn't smell funny like you said he does, and he doesn't look like a wart, you know, or whatever. You know, I think it'd be funny if they could, you know. So yeah, I'd probably pick that.
So that basically wraps it up. Is there anything that you wanted to mention that I haven't asked you about the Tosa Inu? And also where anybody can find you at on social media. In the description, I got your email address, and you can see his phone number right there on the thing.
Gotcha. Yeah. So
is there anything that you wanted to
yeah, we are
about the breed? Yeah.
So we are on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and of course you can reach us by phone and email. I love talking about dogs. So if you have questions about the breed, feel free to reach out. If you have questions about dogs, feel free to reach out anytime. I don't have expectations. You do not have to get a puppy from me in order to talk to me. I do not charge to talk. I'm not going to charge you money.
Right now, he don't.
Okay. Well, we'll say that. Right now, I don't.
Yeah.
If we get constantly on the phone and I can't work my normal job.
People. You don't want to say that.
Have to do something. Like, I still gotta eat.
But that's like being a dentist and you're not charging nobody for dental or not. You don't. Yeah, it's a limit. Like, it's a limit. He's a cool guy, but it's a limit.
Yeah,
it's a limit. He has a family. You can't just keep calling anytime.
Yeah, it's not just anytime. But it is to say, you know, again, I do what I do because I love what I do. So it is my joy to be able to talk to people, to be able to educate and stuff like that. So I would say that don't feel like you can't reach out and talk. And then as far as what I would say moving forward, you can look up the Tosa Inu Club of America on Facebook or their website. We helped to found that. Watch that space.
Do you have the what's the website? I could put it into the
it should be www.tosaclub.org. Let me test that and confirm it.
Tosaclub.org.
Yes.
Let me see. I can test it out. Yeah, here you go. That's it. I'll put it in there. That's what it is. Yeah.
So yeah. That's one of the places that you can go to find information. We have somebody that we worked with to help start this breed club, and she's starting to get into wanting to start to get into breeding. So within the next couple of years, I expect there will be another kennel, and she's listed on that site as well.
Nice.
I want people to be able to know that there are resources out there about this breed. I see a lot of people who tried to get a dog from, you know, so-and-so or such and such a place. And I want people to know that we are here as a resource. Again, just because if you call me after the fact and say so-and-so disappeared with my money, or, you know, this dog that I got from them was this kind of way, I can't help with that. But for starters, if you can call me beforehand and say, I'm looking at getting a dog from so-and-so, and I can tell you, I never heard of that person, that's worth hearing, because I make my business to know people. I'm making my business to get out and find and meet people. So whatever country you're going to get a Tosa from, if I don't know that person and I don't know anybody that knows that person, I can save you a lot of trouble and heartache. Even if they do have a dog, what you're getting might not be what you're looking for, you know? So know that those resources are there. Use those resources to learn. And I'd say, you know, please keep an eye on the breed. over the next few years, watch us grow, watch the breed grow. I think it's going to be a lot of exciting things happening in this breed, and I want to see those come to fruition. And I'd love it if everybody can watch that with me.
So we gonna see you on the French Ring PSA or IGP field? Are you gonna take them there?
So actually no, but that doesn't mean you won't see me doing protection.
Okay. Well, PSA would be good, but you can just do person. I get it. It's different than the sport.
Well, yeah, and part of the reason is it's just some specific things. So, kind of for instance, what we want to see from a dog on that field is different from what we'd want to see from a Tosa in the ring. That's really it. Things like bark and hold that make a lot of sense. Things like if I'm working with a protection dog and they get froth at their mouth, I kind of want to see that with most protection dogs because it gets into the mind of the person that they're in front of, right? You will never see that froth at the mouth from a Tosa in the ring in Japan. They specifically don't want to see that. That means the dog is in less than good physical condition. They're going to select against that. So we will be doing, like, our goal is working towards protection work in the future, but we're going to make one that continues the legacy of what the ring was and makes a dog that is of that samurai Bushido warrior way for protection work, if that makes any sense.
That does make sense. Yeah, that'll be amazing. You'll change the game with that one. Because whoever started Schutzen is like, it had to be one dude or his homie. Yeah. So you'll be that guy.
Yeah. And again, I don't know that it's necessarily gonna, take the world by storm or anything crazy like that. But I think that, like, Schutzen was started just to test German Shepherds. That was really what the purpose was. And it was to show this dog is worth breeding. If your dog wasn't Schutzen titled, you could not breed it in Germany. I think to this day, if they don't have a title in Schutzen, herding, or I think they just now started where a show title counts. They don't have a title in any of those things. You cannot breed your German Shepherd in Germany. And I think Rottweilers are like that. I think a couple of dogs that they got over there are like that. And the Schutzen was started not as a sport to show my dog can bite, but to show the temperament of what a German Shepherd was expected to be by Max von Stephanitz, the father of the modern German Shepherd. And I think similarly, and what I aspire to here is we can't fight dogs here, but that doesn't mean we can't make warriors. And I want ways that we can continue to develop the true nature of that dog. A dog show breeds for a certain expression and a certain stance, and they want the dog to look a certain way. But if you get a show dog and you put it next to a Yokozuna or a Meikin Yokozuna over in Japan, you won't be confused. You'll know the difference between the real deal, the dog that is that naturally, and the dog that's been made to stand a certain way. There's an aura and a presence and an expression that comes with that, So when it comes to it, I want to develop a way to continue to build that warrior here and into the future in a way that makes sense,
That's amazing, man. I got so many more questions, but I can't do that. We got to do a part 2 because I got way more. Yeah. I got so many more questions about all types of stuff, man. I can talk this stuff all day.
Yeah.
So again, you can find them on. What's the way to find you on social media? Is it Pride Rock Tosa?
Pride Rock Tosa. If you look up Pride Rock Tosa, you'll find us.
Pride Rock Tosa, and I got his information there. You do got to fill out an application.
Yes.
He is going to check it out, and you get the dog at 12 weeks. And then if you guys just catch into the live, you can be able to listen to the playback again. And like I said, you can feel free to email them. And but the guy that answered the question about the Tosa, I personally don't know, but I don't know if he knows what the Tosa blood that Lee Robinson used. I'm not sure of the names. I would have to find out the name of the Tosa, and then I would see the breeder. I'm not sure about that one, but that's a good question.
So,
yeah.
I wouldn't know that question, even if like he showed me the dog itself. I wouldn't be able to answer that question. And I want to be clear, most people in the West cannot. When people are in the West talking about the blood of a Tosa, they're talking about such and such a kennel in the West bred this, that, and the other thing, and that's what they're looking at. That's not the actual bloodlines of the Tosa. That'd be like if you're familiar with game dogs, that'd be like me getting some old family red nose and maybe black widow dogs, and then breeding them myself and saying that instead of calling them old family red nose or calling them, black widow, black Betty, whatever, calling them what they are, saying that they're Vitatoe dogs. Now, of course, I put my mark on them and my style, but that's not their bloodlines. Same thing is true with the Tosa. And that being said, there is a gentleman that would know that. He can tell you all of that. He's one of my go-to guys, a guy named, if you look him up on Facebook, his name is Relay, Rele.
Rele.
Rele. And if you tell him the dog's pedigree, he can tell you the bloodlines. That's one option. The other option is, and this just blows my mind, any dog man in Japan or Korea. I can take one of these European Tosas off my lot, and it's any Tosa that exists because it's less than a few generations related to a Yokozuna, a Meikin Yokozuna, etc. That's all that exists over there. So it's not like even a show Tosa is not show line for generations or anything like that. Maybe 2, maybe 3 at the most. Even still, if they get hands on a Meikin Yokozuna or something, they're going to infuse that into their lines. So you're not far removed from that. Yet and still, I can get one of these dogs off my lot that are from Europe, and show them to a dog man in Korea, show them to a dog man in Japan, and he can tell you exactly what kennel that dog came from in Japan, where the ancestors came back 3 or 4 generations back, and it never ceases to amaze me how they can do that. If you can get a picture of whatever dog Lee used to one of them, they'll tell you everything you ever want to know about that dog. They'll tell you the lines it came from, how it works, how to train it, what food you need to watch with it, what nutrients, and how to watch how it develops. Any dog that it produces, watch this, that, or the other. They got all that. They could tell you all that. And we're working on trying to get that information and learn that and pull that out. But as you can imagine, a breed this old and a lot of people not really looking to be, famous over there. They're not looking to be on TV or anything. It's a slow process, but they would be able to tell you.
Part two, I would like to talk more about, because you big on form follows function, and you big on epigenetics and raising your dog, and just knowing that the Vitatoe Tosa that you producing is developing their own line in a sense, because I know you said you don't want to do it, so we gonna talk about that in part 2 and get more in depth on that one, because you creating your own lane now. So you might have like people in Japan say, "Hey, I want a Vitatoe," so you don't gotta come to them.
Yeah,
you see what I mean?
I'll say this: I've told them that I'd like to create a dog that they would come and get from me, but again, just kind of keeping it 100. I remember talking to one guy, and I'll try to be quick with this, but I remember talking to one guy and asking him, because I was trying to learn from him, dog man over in Korea. And I asked him, look, what do you select for in your kennel? And he was one of the first people that told me the rules make the dogs. And I asked him, so it's not like the head shape or the body length, no, it's the rules. That's what makes the dogs. And he's like, yeah. And then I asked him, I said, I want to get a dog from you. He said that it'd be easier to get a dog from, this other person that has dogs for me over in this country. And I told him, I said, I appreciate that. I think it's very good that you referred them. I think that's a high mark on them. But I'm going to say this, and with all due respect, if your kennel burned down right now, every dog you had, you lost, and you had to build from scratch, would you go to them and get a dog? And he said, wow, no, I would not. I would sooner get a dog from somebody here in Korea, if I can get a dog from associates here in Korea, or I get a dog from friends in Japan. That would be it. And when it comes to it, there's a lot of people, like there's a lot of good people in every breed. And then there's a lot of people that I think they feel like their identity and their value is what their dogs can bring to them. And it shows in the way they talk about their dogs. And in this breed, they'll say, oh, I got the authentic this, authentic that, real this, real that. Man, I got real dogs. He don't got real dogs. He don't got this, that, the other thing. And I get, like, I'm not going to hate on you. I'm not going to show up on your wall and call you out on that or anything like that. But when you come at me like that, you know, that's a whole nother story, because I'm going to get straight. You're not going to want to answer the questions that I'm going to ask you. You're going to say you got real dogs from real bloodlines. I'm going to tell you, hey, look, in all of the history of Tosas in Korea and Japan, there has never been a such thing as an honorary title. Your dog being the daughter of a Yokozuna or a son of a Yokozuna, great. That means they have the potential if they show themselves. If they show themselves, that's all that they would breed, is the child of a Yokozuna. Saying you have championship lines, so there are no other lines. There are no other Tosas in existence in Japan or Korea for the last 1,000 years than dogs that win. So great. You mean you're not lying to say you have championship lines, but are you being honest? You know, and further, when it comes to it, like you say, you got the real deal. You know, good and doggone well, you say this to me here and to people here now, but I give you $5,000 to go to Japan right now, stand up in a ring in Odate and say that out loud. Say out loud what you said to me. Say out loud what you said to these people here who coming to you to learn about this breed, and they're supposed to be getting responsible information presented responsibly. And you over here just jawing off at the mouth. Say it in front of them. You know, if you won't say it in front of them, why are you saying it in front of me? You're going to say you got the real deal. Have you ever produced a single dog that went to Japan? Ever? A single dog that made the first rank, like the equivalent of a white belt in karate. Have you ever had a single dog that went over there? No. The answer is no. Because I know the people over there. And if they did, if you did, when I asked him if he'd got a dog from anybody out here, he just said your name. Never said anybody's name.
No capping allowed. Yeah, you can't cap the sources like that. That's what's up, man.
Yeah. So when it comes to it, I can't represent myself like that if I'm telling people to say, like, you know, get real, you know. So same way, as much as I have my passions, as much as I have my dreams, when I say, like, I talked to one of them, I talked to Sung Ju and told him, the most recent dog I got from Korea, Kushina. I told him, I want to produce a dog that you would be proud to get one day. And he laughed, but he also knows I'm serious. You know, he knows I'm not just saying that for marketing over here. And he knows that while I don't know everything of what that's going to require, I think he believes that I'm on the way. And to me,
definitely on the way.
Yeah. And to me, the fact that I have their dogs is proof of their willingness to trust me with that. Proof of their willingness to say, let's give this guy a chance. He talks like people, like he talks like somebody, like he talks like I've never heard people in the West talk like that before, you know. And he might be a little starry-eyed, a little dreamy-eyed, a little space brain, whatever, you know, a little hopeful if he thinks he can get that happening, but he's being honest, you know, and he's being truthful. And that's what I'd say. I think long-term goals, I want there to come a day where out of the mouths of the dog men in Japan, they say a good Tosa is a good Tosa, regardless as to where it comes from. But we got a lot of work to get there. And I got a lot of stuff to prove in order to get to that point. I got a lot of goals to hit, a lot of things to do. And when it comes to it, like much the same, creating that type of protection work is going to be part of it, a big part of it, because I got to be able to demonstrate to them that I can show a sport where the true nature of the Tosa is tested, developed, and preserved, while also being able to create a dog that if they wanted to take a dog from anywhere and put it in the ring, it's going to be capable of doing whatever a Tosa can do, not that they have to, but that they can, if that makes any sense. Again, that heart of a warrior.
Wait, man, you on your way. And if there's anything that I can do, I mean, you know way more dogs about me, but if I can use my platform to help you out in any way, feel free to reach out to me, man, and I'll be glad to help you out. I can say, yo, I knew the Vitatoe when it was, and now look at it 20 years from now. So I'll be glad to help you out. And if anybody is interested in the breed, I'm definitely gonna say, yo, give them a call, fill out the application, and there. You know what I mean? Because and we definitely gonna do a part 2 soon, man. And I appreciate you, man, once again for educating us. And there's so much more we gonna learn through you with the Tosa. But this part right here, we've been on here for a few hours, and this has been spectacular. And I appreciate you, man.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it as well. And I say you took the words from my mouth. Honestly, I really do mean that. I think what you're doing and what you're building is worth a lot more than there are words to say. It's gonna translate into a lot more in the future, just the same. And anytime you want to chat dogs, anytime you want to,
we're gonna do a part 2 and
whenever.
And next month, September, we got to do the part 2 in September for sure.
Sounds like
I have some way more questions for you, man. I appreciate you, man.
Yes, sir. All right.
All right, man.
Yes, sir.